Hey everybody, it's me, Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I want to talk about a band called the Farmers Boys. Yeah, there's other bands out there called the Farmers Boys, but I'm not talking about the Farmers Boys. I'm talking about the Farmers Boys. That is Farmer, apostrophe S, Boys from Norwich, England. I usually like to start these episodes off by telling you how I got into that band, and that's I was at Music Market in Costa Mesa, flipping through the import bin, and I stumbled across this album called Get Out and Walk. The cover was great and colorful, just caught my eye. So I grabbed it, and it was an import LP, and it came with a free bonus 12-inch single featuring remixes of songs from the album. So I thought, well, this is a great price, and I'm going to check them out. Never heard them before, and I fell in love with them. They were just completely unique. At that time I was hoping, okay, are they going to sound like the Bluebells? Are they going to sound like, Friends Again or Aztec Camera, whoever I was listening to, the really guitar-based stuff. It did not sound like that, but it didn't sound like that at all. And it just absolutely fun album, and I fell in love with it immediately. And then I followed them. Then I've been able to discover other projects the band members were involved with, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now. But let's go all the way back to the beginning. The Farmers Boys is Baz, Barry McGilty, on vocals and Casio keyboards. Then you've also got Stan on guitar. You've also got Mark on bass, and you got Frog on keyboards. Now, all of them play different instruments as well, but those were the main instruments of choice for the band. And initially, now they were doing a bunch of demos, and they put out a couple early singles before they put out that first album. And some of those demos and early tracks are compiled on this release called Once Upon a Time in the East, early years 81 to 82. Now here's a cool little tidbit about the band. I never saw them live because they were from Norwich, England. And but when they would perform live, Baz would be up there with a Casio keyboard, but he didn't have a keyboard holder. He would be using this ironing board. And of course, he'd put his drink there as well. So, imagine the singer of a band. And they didn't have a drummer. In fact, I believe that Frog, who handled keyboards, he also handled, the rhythm machine and stuff. The early recordings are more post-punk as opposed to really poppy. And this contains some songs that ended up being re-recorded for the first album. But there's a bunch of unreleased things here. The first part of the CD is very raw. And if anyone's looking for poppy, peppy production, you're not going to find it there. But as they progressed, they became better songwriters, better performers. And the second half of this disc sort of sounds like that transitional period from the earlier raw stuff to the more polished production of the first album. But it's a really nice collection. And like I said, there are songs on this that are not available anywhere else. Now, the first album that I was talking about, called Get Out and Walk, that is right here. And you can see right there why I would just jump at this album, because it just looks fun. And the CD that came out on Cherry Red actually has the full album plus those extended mixes that were on the 12-inch single. And I think it's got a couple other tracks, like Muck It Out, which was not on the album, and a couple non-album singles and B-sides. And it's really a fantastic collection of songs. They're really fun. It's keyboard, it's guitar, it's bass, it's drum machine. Never forgotten them. This album was pretty amazing. Interesting thing here, my friend Matthew, who I went to high school with, he went to school in England for a year, and one year he came back and he said, "Oh, hey, you're really going to dig this band that I heard." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" He says, "Yeah, because I read a review that compared the singer of this band to the singer of the Farmers Boys, and I know that you really like the Farmers Boys." I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll check them out." And so he played me the single, This Charming Man by the Smiths, and then the debut album by the Smiths. Farmers Boys do not sound like the Smiths, so don't get too excited there. But they are really fun. Now, 2 years later, the band returned with These Hands, a fantastic album. Now, this is them really moving away from their early roots. They have a real drummer on a lot of this album, and it's big, full guitar. There's not as much keyboards on most of the album, like the song I Built the World. Then they do a cover version of the song In the Country, which was made popular by Cliff Richard and whatever his group was, or maybe it was solo Cliff Richard, I'm not sure. But it's really a fantastic album. Lots of great songs on it. And the interesting thing is they mix a lot of things into their music. There's pop, there's funk, there's even like a country feel. Like even if you buy some of the 7-inch singles and the 12-inch singles, they've got, very country influence in some of the songs. And that will be revealed a little bit later in this video when I explain one of their later bands. But this was it. After this album, Farmer's Boys only put out the 2 albums, Get Out and Walk and With These Hands. Both of them are highly recommended, never released in the US, but if you manage to find them in the wild, definitely check them out. Now, after the band broke up, I believe that Frog went off and he played with the Higsons for a little while, and then it was Baz and Mark. They went off and formed a band called the Avons, and the Avons put out an album in 1986. I've never heard it. I didn't even know it existed until many years later because, you weren't reading about them in the British papers. So I've never heard the Avons. It's never come out on CD. I would love to be able to hear them. I guess I can do some kind of internet search. Maybe somebody put something up there. But and that came out in 86. Now, it took quite a few years, like another 13 years, before Baz, Mark, and Stan returned with a band called The Great Outdoors. Now, they put out a single or two in 99 and 2000, but then in 2001, they put out an album called What We Did on Our Holidays. I mean, this is going back to the indie sound. They're not on a major label. They don't have the big production bucks, but they've got a lot of great guitar oriented songs. Very, I don't want to say C86 inspired, but it's got some jangle in there. It's got a little bit of country in there. It's got straight ahead pop. Lots of really good songs on this album. Production on some tracks is great. Some of the tracks are maybe a little bit underproduced, but still the talent shows, and it's really fantastic to hear Stan, Mark, and Baz together again. So that's 3/4 of the Farmer's Boys together again in The Great Outdoors. Now, there was also an EP called Fading Fast, which I have not been able to locate. That was a CD EP. Eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to find that. And then the band, for all intents and purposes, for guys like me in the US, they disappeared. And they didn't reappear again until 2016, when Stan, Mark, and Baz, and a few other members, formed a band called the Mc Gilly Brothers. Now, the Mc Gilly Brothers, of course, Barry McGilty is Baz. Now, I don't know if McGilty is his real last name, but it's an awesome one, so I'll take it. Anyway, the Mc Gilly Brothers, this is the first album. It's called Songs to Leave Home To. I remember how I told you how some country influences were coming out in the Farmer's Boys B-sides and a couple album tracks and a little bit on The Great Outdoors. This is full-fledged, a British interpretation of country, very much along the lines of what Alan Tyler was doing with the Rocking Birds. And most of the songs were written by bassist Mark. And it's really a fine album. Again, production isn't this big, polished, beautiful thing, but the songs shine through, and that's what really matters. To me, in the end, it's full of great American country flavored songs. I'm not talking about Keith Urban country. I'm not talking about George Strait. I'm going back to the 60s. You hear a little bit of Merle Haggard in there, but you also hear a little bit of Graham Parsons in there. They're really mining the true American roots of country music, but it's also got their own personality. It sounds like the Mc Gilly Brothers. That came out in 2016, and the Mc Gilly Brothers returned in 2021 with an album called Redemption and Rust, another fine collection of songs. Like I said, if you are into Alan Tyler and the Rocking Birds, if you are into, I don't want to compare them to Los Pacaminos because that's more Tex-Mex. It's along the same lines. It's these seasoned British musicians who are fans of just the real rootsy side of American country, and they're given their own interpretation of it, and it's a really, really fine album. But anyway, that is it. That's their catalog. I really wanted to share it with you, but I also want to share a medley that I put together featuring tracks from each of the albums that I talked about. Just little snippets, give you an idea of what these bands sound like. So sit back, relax, give this a listen, and I will see you on the other side.
ever since I found you. I made a world for you to hold. I built my world around you, the one that now surrounds you. And with his hands, I built the world. You're gonna find me out in the country. Come on and find me out in the country, where the air is good and the day is fine, and the pretty girl has a hand in mine, and the silver stream is a poor man's wife in the country. You know that's what friends are for. Right now, that's what friends are for. You all who could ask for more. What else could friends be for? I can't hold it back. It's like a love attack. So many ways to make it look so easy. I feel numb inside. I guess there's nowhere to hide. So many ways to make it look so easy. I got a guitar in the air. Your heart is way out there. Your smile's the brightest thing you wear. With your head in the clouds, your feet are off the ground. The more I see, the more I know, the more I need and want you so. The more I give, the less I get. The more I need and feel regret. I held a world here in my hands. I never. No more tears, no regrets. Ain't got time for that yet. Gotta get on with my life while I still can. So I say goodbye for now, 'cause you're leaving anyhow. So long, my sweet country road. We're not afraid to ride. We're not afraid to die. Come on, wheels, take me home today. Come on, wheels, take this boy away. I'm headed somewhere now, and it's further than before. I'm used to life without you. I don't need you anymore. I'm getting somewhere now, and it's better than I had. I'm used to life without you, and it really ain't that bad. I'm getting somewhere now. Baby, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to love somebody, to love somebody the way I love you.
Anyway, that's it. I hope that this inspires you to check out either the Farmer's Boys, the Great Outdoors, or the Mc Gilly Brothers. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, to ring that bell for future notifications. And until the next time, remember me. I'm Steve Schnee, the CD Junkie.